Hello, this is BBC World News, our top stories. Police in Hong Kong fire tear gas and water cannon at protesters who defy warnings to clear the streets. As his party's conference gets underway, Britain's Prime Minister defends his use of language, which sparked a heated debate in Parliament. Hello and welcome to BBC World News. Hong Kong police have again fired water cannon, tear gas and pepper spray to break up anti-government protesters in another weekend of increasingly violent clashes. Here are the latest pictures that we are getting. You can see the clashes between police and pro-democracy campaigners have stepped up ahead of that anniversary of the founding of Communist China. The BBC's Stephen McDonnell is there.
Riot police have taken up position on this walk bridge. From above, they're able to shoot tear gas and rubber bullets into the street. And that's because at either ends of this street we have protesters. You can see the umbrellas down here. And this is all part of today's act of mass civil disobedience. Despite the tear gas, despite the police firing their less lethal rounds, we still have a very big turnout here with thousands of protesters. And what this is all about is leading up to the 70th anniversary of the Communist Party coming to power in China. Beijing wants it to be a celebration of everything that's best about the country. These activists, though, are determined to crash the party. And in the days leading up to next Tuesday's official celebrations, they're using every chance they can to try and push their claims for democratic reform in Hong Kong. And if that means having rubber bullets fired at them, if it means dodging tear gas, it seems that is what they're prepared to do. Here you can see how the underground train stations have been at the front line of these street battles. I mean, this is the entrance to the station. A barricade has been built here. The glass has all been smashed up. Inside, people have been throwing petrol bombs and the police have been firing rubber bullets. So it gives you an indication of how dangerous it becomes at times.
The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has arrived at his party's annual conference, still insisting that the country will leave the European Union at the end of next month. That's despite suffering a series of setbacks last week. In an interview with the BBC, Mr Johnson addressed questions about his use of language, which has led to widespread criticism. Our assistant political editor, Norman Smith, was watching.
Defiant, largely unrepentant Boris Johnson, particularly in relation to his own conduct and his own use of language following those acrimonious scenes in the Commons the other night, basically rebuffing the charge that he'd used inappropriate language when he talked about the Surrender Act. He dismissed as humbug an MP calling on him to moderate his language. He talked about betrayal. Said that these were, quotes, old, tried and fighting on. Nothing unusual about the language he'd used, he said, although he did offer a glimmer, a sort of hint of a half apology over the use of the word humbug in relation to Joe Cox, suggesting that he used that word because he was trying to dismiss the attacks as ways of limiting his ability to deliver Brexit. That is what he said he was trying to say. He wasn't accusing the MP of being a liar. But have a listen to how he defended himself against accusations that he'd used inappropriate language.
I certainly think everybody should calm down. And I certainly
including you.
I think I've been a model of restraint, but I think everybody should calm down, and I think that it's very important. I mean, you know, as I said, there are two separate.
You don't regret the use of the word humbug at all when an MP is discussing a death threat made against her?
I think it is wrong in principle that politicians should be prevented from trying to use words like surrender.
I'm asking you about your word humbug, not about surrender. Your word humbug when an MP has just described a death threat against her.
But the word...
It's very straightforward. Everyone can understand it.
I know, and I think what people can also understand, if I may say so, Andrew, is that my use of the word humbug was in the context of people trying to prevent us from using the word surrender.
Right, time for a look at some of the other day stories now. Official figures estimate that the turnout in Afghanistan's presidential election was around 1 in 5 of registered voters. The overall number of Afghans who cast their ballot on Saturday is expected to be just over 2 million, the lowest since 2001 when the Taliban regime was defeated. 2 people have died and 5 others injured at a theme park in Mexico City. All the victims were passengers on a roller coaster when one of the carriages fell off the track at the La Feria amusement park. 2 of those being treated in hospital are thought to have serious head injuries. Now, voting is underway in Austria, with the former Chancellor Sebastian Kurz looking to return to power just 4 months since he was ousted from office. A no-confidence vote brought down his government after a video surfaced showing his coalition partner offering government contracts in exchange for campaign support. Our correspondent in Vienna is Bethany Bell, and she explained how the country came to hold early elections.
Well, this is an early election because, as you said, the last coalition government fell apart in May as a result of a video sting scandal that involved the head of the junior coalition partner, Heinz-Christian Strache of the far-right Freedom Party. He was caught on video in a villa in Ibiza promising government contracts to a woman who was pretending to be the niece of a Russian oligarch. He had to resign amidst that scandal, and then the whole coalition fell apart, and his coalition partner, Chancellor Sebastian Kurz of the Conservatives, lost a vote of no confidence in Parliament, and so new elections were scheduled. And in the meantime, Austria has been ruled by a caretaker government of technocrats, and has got, in fact, at the moment, its first female chancellor, Brigitte Bierlein, who was the former president of Austria's highest court.
And Bethany, in light of that scandal that you've just mentioned, what are the key factors playing on voters' minds?
Well, I think people here are thinking, are they going to put Sebastian Kurz back in power as Chancellor? What kind of coalition will emerge out of this election? Will it be one that involves a renewal of the alliance between the Conservatives and the far-right Freedom Party? Will it be something like a coalition of the Conservatives, the Greens and the small Liberal Party? Will it be a return to a grand coalition between the Conservatives and the Social Democrats? All of these options are on the table. It very much depends on how voters decide in the voting today.
And that's it for now. You're watching BBC World News.
Sorry.
Think this is funny? Is this a joke to you?
It's so awful, isn't it? Are you having any negative thoughts?
There are many who prey on the innocent. I'm sure your kind would agree. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were making a threat.
Well, do you?
Do I what?
Know better.